Well, if you guys don't mind, we do have a Hot Wheel video today because I do want to talk about a topic that I find pretty important to myself and also my car preferences, and that's going to be muscle cars and how I feel like they've been a little bit neglected in the Hot Wheel world community, especially when it comes to the premium line, the car culture line. I feel like muscle cars have taken a step back from what they used to be for Hot Wheels and Mattel. So anyway, the reason why I want to make today's video is because I was scrolling through Instagram this morning and I came across these photos. I don't know if you want to call them leaks or whatever, but I found them on Instagram, and it was photos of an upcoming new casting for the Dodge Challenger. Now, it is a new casting, or is it a casting retool? You guys can let me know down in the comments below which is the correct terminology to use. Is it new casting or retool? Because there has been a 2006 casting of the Challenger, but you know, this might be, you know, from the ground up, right? So it might be a new casting, but I was very, very, very happy to see this. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, I feel like muscle cars for Hot Wheels, especially in the premium line, they have been neglected, and to see this new Challenger in the works makes me very, very, very happy. And this is going off, you know, this Roadrunner as well, which was a new casting that was done by Brendan Vituski. This was released in the Fast and Furious line last year, or this year, I guess. It's a 2025, so I know we're already heading into the 2026 calendar year for, you know, the Hot Wheels cars, but yeah, it's a this year casting. It's 2025 as I sit here and talk anyway. So I was really happy to see that they did a revamp of that car, of the Plymouth, and now they're doing with the Challenger as well, which is great because, like I said many times already in this video, I feel like muscle cars are being neglected. Now let's have a look at all of the muscle car releases that we've had this year for Hot Wheels, right? In the 2025 calendar year. I'm not counting like all classic American cars. I know that we also saw like the Ford Bronco, for example. I'm not even counting the modern stuff either. These are going to be the, you know, the classic golden era muscle cars. And as you can see over here, I think there's one thing that we can definitely talk about is that the correlation of every single muscle car that was given out this year, they're all peg warmers. Like every single one of them are all peg warmers. I mean, the Mustang, the Pontiac, the one from Fast Wagons, the Chevelle as well. But yeah, we've also not seen very many inclusions of muscle cars in car culture anymore. Like, you know, in 2025, we've seen 2 from Boulevard, 1 from the actual car culture line from Fast Wagons. We've seen 3 from the Fast and the Furious, 2. Well, not really 2. 1 from the Twin Pack, and then 1 from Team Transport. I don't think there was any box set that surrounded muscle cars this year as a theme. There was the Advan one, there was the Legend one with like the Strassen Vision, the Mercedes CLK. That's my favorite box set of the year. There was one for Honda as well, and there was even one that had a boat in it, which is ridiculous. But yeah, so one thing I realized was that a lot of these cars were peg warmers, on top of the fact that, you know, there wasn't a huge inclusion of muscle cars in the premium line anymore. And I feel like there is a correlation here. There is a reason why a lot of these cars have hung on the pegs, and I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that there's some very, very old castings here, right? For example, the Firebird is a casting from 2008, the Chevelles from 2009, well, the wagon version is 2009, and the Chevelle SS 2012, you've got the Plymouth Duster from 2011, you've got the AMC Javelin 2009, Rebel Machine 2012, and out of everything that's been released, right, only 3 of them have been relatively recent. Not relatively recent, very recent actually. So with the Impala from 2024, I'm still a little bit annoyed that they decided to go for the bigger rear wheels. Like, it's a new casting, and I feel like most new castings nowadays, they strive for realism, and I just feel like this casting would have been so much better if they also went for realism, if they went for the same size wheels, front and rear, right? And then one of my favorite muscle car castings of the year is definitely going to be this one over here, right? The 2025, or my favorite muscle car release of this year for car culture is going to be the Plymouth Roadrunner for sure, which also came out this year in 2025. And then there was the Ford Mustang Boss 302, which is an old casting, but was retooled in 2019. And I do believe that the one that we got was the retooled version from 2019. So I would say that it's a relatively new one as well. But what I'm trying to say here is that what I've realized is that, muscle cars needs more love in more ways than one. The first one is that they need to be included more, but just including more muscle cars in the premium lineup is not going to, make people want them more, right? So that's one way, right? They need to be included more in the premium line, but on top of that, it needs to be added with a second avenue of how they can treat muscle cars better, and that's updating the castings. They need to update the castings. The thing is, right? A lot of these muscle car castings, they came from an era where I would say that Hot Wheels were a little bit different, right? I would say that recently, maybe like post 2020, the premium line has taken a bigger stride towards realism, right? Collectors now, we want cars that look realistic as possible, and that's why I love Ron Wong's work and everything that he has done since getting onto the team. But a lot of these muscle cars are from a time where realism wasn't really the priority. They were making cars look more outlandish, more, I would say, cartoony, maybe? Something more fun, because it wasn't really geared towards collectors that were collecting the cars. It was mainly for kids, and kids wanted cars to look funky, that's at least how I imagine how they wanted to do the castings back then, because the proportions were also a little bit off, but technology nowadays is also better, so it's easier to make more realistic looking cars in this day and age as well. You can't just put more muscle cars in the premium lineup. You gotta show them some love. You gotta retool them. You gotta make them applicable for today's market, and then put them in the lineup, right? Increase the amount of muscle cars in the lineup as well. Then I feel like there might be less of peg warmers, right? So, for example, let's look at some of the most, I would say, popular sets. Okay, I know that there are a lot more, like Timeless Icons, for example, right? But here are some of the most popular sets from the year. As you can see, most of these castings are brand stinking new. I would say that this is probably the most popular and also the best Fast and Furious set that we've gotten this year in 2025. Some people might argue, some people say the Rambo Lambo, the Koenigsegg, and the Roadrunner was the best set, and I can kind of see that as well, but I think the Supra kind of sucks. But anyway, these are all new, right? 2025 casting, 2025 casting, 2025 casting. This was from last year, and this was from 2011. Lo and behold, this is the peg warmer. To be fair, this 2025 casting is a peg warmer as well, but I think that really comes down to the decal. It's not very nice. And then we've got Circuit Legends. Again, the Mustang, the Ferrari, they're all brand new castings, right? The Porsche is also a new casting from 2024. The BRZ Pandem is pretty new from 2019, and the only peg warmer was the 917K. Actually, the peg warmers were the 917, the BRZ, and the Mustang. But usually the more popular sets include newer castings, right? Like the majority of the set includes newer castings. And the thing about the muscle cars is that they're mostly older castings. So I was very, very happy to see, the Challenger being retooled, because the old Challenger didn't look really good. So, going off the fact that, older cars looked less realistic to newer castings, here you go with the Plymouth Roadrunner, right? So this was the old casting, and as you can see, it had all the traits of an old Hot Wheel casting, especially when it comes to muscle cars. A lot of chrome, right? And a way larger rear wheel as opposed to the front, right? So with the newer casting, the proportions are just a lot more realistic, and I really do appreciate the paintwork a lot more as well, right? So I'm really happy to see that the Challenger. The old Challenger was a 2006 casting. This was a Boulevard. I think this was like Boulevard number 83. That came out back in the 2023 calendar year for Hot Wheels. And yeah, the proportions were just off. I mean, for me, I'm a Mopar guy. I love Chargers, I love Challengers, and this thing just looks way too squished. And in addition to that, I mean, what's going on with the wheels? Why are they so deep inside, right? Like the wheel gap is kind of ridiculous over here. The wheels are so close to each other. Everything about it just seems really, cartoony, right? But that's what I'm looking forward to the new casting. I think the new casting looks really great. They're adding in the license plate holder as well. Please paint it. I don't like it when they add a license plate holder, but they just leave it blank. I know that creates opportunity for people to customize their cars and put their own car plate if they want to, but I'm not that kind of collector, right? I want you guys to finish the job and paint your license plate. And that's one thing I love about the Timeless Icons R34, because Ron Wong took the liberty of actually adding a Japanese license plate on there. I thought that was pretty freaking cool, you know? So yeah, I'm really looking forward to how the new casting sits. I think it's going to be a lot better than the old one as well. And now that we've talked about that, I just want to highlight a couple of muscle cars which I feel like they could add into the premium line, whether it's just with a nice little premium conversion or a retool or even a recasting. Okay, so honestly, and that's the other thing with the muscle cars this year. I feel like the muscle cars that were chosen were not really the most popular ones, like the Plymouth Duster from Team Transport, for example, or the AMC Javelin or the AMC Rebel. Okay, the Rebel is pretty popular, but the Javelin, you know, you compare the AMC Javelin to like a 1969 Dodge Charger, for example. Everyone's gonna recognize the Charger a lot more, all right? It's gonna turn a lot more heads, generally speaking, right? Generally speaking. So anyway, these are some muscle cars which I feel like, you know, they've not been touched upon for a very long time. I would love to see these guys in the premium lineup, with, you know, a recasting, a retool, anything like that. So the first one is the GTO, the Judge, right? I would love to see this in premium, with the right size wheels placed front and back. That would be great. Give me like a clean Judge version just in that orange. I think that would be beautiful. Another car I would love to see, you know, get a recasting or a retool would be the 69 Camaro. Less chrome, honestly speaking. Again, changing up the tires, making them the same size, and changing up the proportions a little bit more. I would love to see like a Yenko Camaro being added into the premium line. I think a nice little recasting of this would be pretty cool. Another car I would love to add onto the list is the 1972 Charger. This is the Charger that nobody really cares about, right? Everyone gives love to the 69 Charger, the 70 Charger. I would love to see the 69 Charger in the premium lineup, but it's already in Redline, and I feel like usually when they make cars for Redline, they kind of hesitate. Like Mattel kind of hesitates to put them in the premium line. There are some exceptions, like the BMW E30, for example, but for the most part, most of the cars that I see make it to was it Redline Collectors Club, which I don't really collect. They don't really make it to the premium line, and it's kind of sad because the 69 Charger is first and foremost a Redline collector car. They're like 3 versions: a purple, a black, and a gold. So I would love to see the 69 Charger in the premium one, but if they're not going to do that, I think the 72 would be a great shot. I feel like the 72 Charger doesn't get a lot of love. This one in the 1966, the first gen Charger, doesn't get a lot of love as well. But the 66 Charger has a casting for the Matchbox line. So I was thinking, okay, maybe they want to keep that on Matchbox. Maybe they want to keep the 69 on Redline. So let's move the 72 up. Let's move it to premium. Maybe give it a nice little retool. I think this car deserves a recasting even. So this would be great to see in the line. Another car I would love to see added would be the Pontiac GTO. This needs a retool, please. This looks like a GTO that I would see in SEMA, but I wouldn't want a SEMA GTO in my garage. I know it sounds wild to say, but I would love to have a GTO which is more factory spec, if that makes sense, right? This is just way too lowered for me. Like, it's great for a show car. It's great to look at SEMA. Look, this might be a hot take, but when I go to SEMA and I look at the cars there, I'm like, yeah, these cars are amazing show cars, but it's not really something that I really want to drive around every day, right? So, not even as a weekend car, even like I just want a clean, stock GTO that isn't lowered, right? I think that would be great. Now moving on, here's an old one. I have the original version of this. It's such an old casting. I would love to see this move out to premium. I know this came out as a Super Treasure Hunt once a long time ago as well. This one needs a recasting for sure, right? The Mercury Cougar plays. Maybe do like an Eliminator spec. Make it all black with the red stripes. I think that would be really, really beautiful. Then I want to leave us off with the last one over here, the Buick GSX. I think this would be a very, very beautiful car if it was given the premium treatment. Think about real riders. Think about, you know, take away the chrome for just a little bit, you know, paint the front end, paint the back end, you know, give it like some genuine, you know, yellow and black paint. I think that would look perfect. would look absolutely perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to end the video with basically like 6 muscle cars, which I feel like could be ushered into the premium line for 2026 and beyond, given some work, right? Given some work. I don't want these castings to be final. I don't want them to just to slap real riders on them, put a different color of paint and say, all right, here you go. Because if they do that, I think they're still gonna peg warm it a little bit. I want new castings. I want new castings, I want retooled castings of really popular golden age muscle cars like these. And who knows, maybe muscle cars will be getting a better perception for the market these days. But anyway, guys, you guys let me know down in the comments below. I do like what I'm seeing with the retooled Challenger, with the retooled Plymouth Roadrunner, and I really hope to see more muscle cars in the premium lineup, but not for the sake of seeing them in the premium lineup. I want to see more muscle cars done well, done realistically, right? I think that'll be fantastic. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.